everyone. It's Mimi again with my very big team today from the Speakers Bank podcast team, our Voice Serve Views. Today is another exciting topic that we will be talking about, and it's all about everybody's bane or boon. It's about transport. It's transport is either your best friend or your worst enemy. And I can already see from my team, they're nodding. Kathryn's nodding. I have here with me my podcast team, Kathryn, Nathan, and Storm, being joined by our students on placement from Victoria University, Annika, Georgia, and Billy. So I think we all agree that transport is a hot topic because there are so many changes that are happening every time when you go out and about. And maybe for people living with a disability, it's even more challenging to navigate through the different options for transport, either whether it's your private car, you use the bus, you use the train, you use taxis, you use Uber, Didi, or what have you. So I guess we can open now the floor by shooting the first question. Maybe Billy, maybe you can ask the three resource persons of our podcasters today about transport. Take it away, Billy.
Okay, my first question is, what are the transport methods that you guys would be using to date now?
During lockdown, I don't use any public transport. I walk, or I just stay in my local area because it's safe. But in general, at night time, I use taxis. How I do it is I use the taxi app. If I like this taxi driver, I'll ask for the number because if I trust them. I've come across a couple of taxi drivers that were quite demanding towards me, and I had to stop using. I had to do a report because it was making me feel uncomfortable, and I didn't know how to deal with that situation intellectually, mentally. So with me, and so that's okay. I don't use this driver anymore. I just use the app. I've got about 5 drivers I trust, and I call them if I need them. I don't, it's not the other way around, which is the way it should be. And so I've got some lovely drivers, which is great, and I feel comfortable with them, so I save their numbers. So that's very important to know for people that don't feel confident in catching taxis. It's okay to catch a taxi so long as you feel safe and keep using the same ones. Keep using the drivers that you trust.
Yeah, it's good to be in control. It's good to be in control, Kathryn, now that you have those people that you trust.
Yeah, I rely on them a lot at night, and I use trains, buses during the day if it wasn't in lockdown. So I've got the access. I realised that I couldn't use the market. It was getting too much confusing with how to, touching on and off was right, but knowing when to top up and understanding why isn't it working through the gates or whatever. So I've got the Access Travel Pass where I don't have to worry about how much money I have. And
can I quickly jump in here? Sorry to cut you off, Kathryn. So you say you have an Access Travel Pass. Was that easy to get? Is that something that is easy for people to obtain?
Yes, you have to have a significant disability to apply for it, and you have to be independent to catch public transport to get it as well.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that.
You have to fill out paperwork, and your doctor has to fill out a bit too.
So Kathryn, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
If you were feeling uncomfortable with a taxi driver, what kind of information can you give the viewers and to us at the podcast here about following up with that sort of problem? Do you have to call the government sort of like taxi company?
for this particular person, I did have to call the company and say what was going on because it was getting out of hand. And I had spoken to this taxi driver directly and said, I got in the car and I blocked him because he just continually was calling me, which is very wrong. And then when he picks me up to take me to work, he asked me, "What's wrong with your phone? Pass it to me." And I thought, whoa, okay. And I couldn't really express that situation.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought, and I told my, and I thought, no, I'm going to do a report. So yeah, I don't use him anymore. I feel a bit fear towards that person.
Okay. So thank you, Kathryn, for your experiences. Now let's go to Nathan. What are your transport methods, especially now that you've moved to another state? Obviously, you've transitioned from your experience here in Victoria. It's probably,
Yeah.
I suspect it's better where you are in Queensland. I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, at least pre-COVID, say, from when I moved onwards, I actually found the train network quite, I'd say efficient. In terms of the travel pass, much like Victoria, it's something that you've got to apply for. It is a little bit more complex in that they require, much like with taxi cards, more paperwork, more identification. For example, with my travel pass compared to Victoria, I actually have to supply a photo so that they can actually put an ID number on it. So it's all really, really official. At the moment, though, I guess since living in Logan, it's mostly just been Ubers, and if I'm fortunate enough to get it, I'll take my scooter out and I'll get a wheelchair taxi when that's possible. But in terms of the taxi aspect and the Uber aspect, it's just not efficient. Like my wife and I, for example, the other day were we didn't have a car for a couple of days because it needed to be fixed, and essentially I had to get to a hydrotherapy session, and the nearest Uber was 22 minutes away, and I was standing with my wife out the front of the house for about half an hour almost just to get an Uber because there was nothing around at 8 a.m. And the only other option that you really have other than a taxi or an Uber is to get what they call volunteer transport. But even that doesn't work because you have to schedule it in advance and you have to note every single appointment that you're going to have. And it's just, there's no on-demand service that can go, oh, we'll pay it directly through, your NDIS plan. And, you call us up and we'll be there in 5 minutes. It's basically, we'll get there when we get there if we're around.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for that snapshot of what transport is like where you are. Storm, what about you? How do you get around town and to your appointments and things like that?
I'm pretty lucky at the moment. My mum takes me to the appointments mostly. My sister will do it as well. So I'm pretty lucky in that regard. But pre-COVID, I was able to use the taxis at times because my mum wasn't well or my sister was busy. So I was able to use that. With COVID now, it's a bit of an unknown situation when we can use taxis again, when it's safe and appropriate to use it, even if you are protected with the vaccine. So we're not quite sure when those services will be resuming because one of the things I wanted to work on was using my taxi voucher more because I feel like I'm not doing enough with that because it's just wasted money every year when I don't really use that. It's money to be used to help me get around when my sister or my mum aren't there, so I definitely need to use that more. And on reflection, I'm definitely looking at ways to improve my independence based on using that service. But like what Kathryn saying, you need to find someone who is very, very good for your needs and someone that you get along with. And Ubers, I haven't really tried, Nathan, but I'm assuming I'm feeling the same way as you, that they're not really reliable because they're not really disability friendly, number one.
Yeah.
And they probably don't have disability qualifications to go along with that.
And
I
I
was
step in quickly. There's this,
Sure.
in my class, we have a student who's studying disability support, and he's an Uber driver, and he lives in up your way, actually. He's nice. He has a big car, so he would be able to fit a wheelchair in. So he like.
Can I just add something? Sorry to interrupt you, Kathryn. Storm, my understanding is that you are still able to use taxis for transportation for appointments.
Oh, okay.
You can.
I'm pretty sure. I have a disabled son who's 17, and
No worries.
when I haven't had a car, I've had to use the transport also in lockdown. So you might want to just inquire about that. I'm pretty sure.
Thank you very
can.
much for telling me that. I had no idea because in the government presses, they don't really tell you that.
No.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have a contact. He's really nice. He lives in Werribee. Yeah. So if you get stuck to get appointments, I'm happy to give you his contact, and he'll look after you.
And Kathryn, give me the contact of that person that you know that is studying to be a disability support worker who has a taxi.
I don't have his number, but I can chat to him and ask if it's okay.
Yeah. Ask him if it's okay, and then forward his details to me.
So it seems to be more about getting people that are qualified, not only as drivers, but more about the disability side of things. I think that's where we're heading to at the moment.
Yeah. That's another. That's another thing. Is good to know. When you're looking for a support worker, you really need to look at their profile. And when you're going to interview them, it is very important that they show you their qualifications and proof that they've studied disability. Because I've had an experience with a person that wants the money and not looking up, and not
Definitely.
that person. Yeah. So this particular person didn't understand that they're like, oh yeah, this person's got a disability, I have to look after. So she comes in and tells me what to do. I don't tell her what to, and like, okay, this is in winter, put sunscreen on. Fill up your drink bottle. Like, these things I can do independently on my own. I don't need to be told. I need help. Helping me writing a shopping list is one of my supports that I really need. So you will tick the box for that support. I need help making sure my bedroom's tidy and know things are put away properly and all that kind of stuff. Making sure my washing, things like that. Sometimes So when you're looking for a support worker, making sure that understanding what your needs are.
Yeah.
Where the needs need to be supported. We, persons with disabilities, need to tell you and speak, and this is my needs. I need your help, support that.
One of the things that I'm finding a lot of problem is that when you go to, like, I don't know, Maple or some sort of disability support worker website, what tends to happen is that you'll read someone's profile on, I'm not saying all of them are like that, but the majority of the ones that I've come across have sort of written down this sort of like profile of what they are, but when you actually meet them, it's the complete opposite of what they are advertising the service for.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that has been really annoying me during the pandemic, is that it seems to be a lot easier for you to get into the disability sector when it should actually be a lot harder because people with disabilities not only have to worry about COVID, but they have to worry about the services that they're getting from that person. You're putting added stress that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So,
That's actually a great jumping off point for what do we have? Do you guys have any ideas what we could do for improvements in these sort of areas? Because you're discussing sort of these problems. Do you have any ideas how to sort of address them?
yeah, well, for me, it's more about making it harder to get into the disability sector, because there seems to be too many people that think it's a cash grab sort of like area where people can just make a couple of quick bucks here and there and not worrying about the actual person and what they need.
They
really
are at the moment. Sorry, Nathan. They are at. I'm not sure when it's coming to effect, but the disability sector requires all disability workers to be registered, and I do believe they will be doing like proper checks.
Fantastic.
And that's in Victoria. I'm not sure in any other state, whether it's every state, but definitely in Victoria. And whether it was the 1st of August or the 1st of July, anyway, in the last from July to September, I think it was coming into effect.
Yeah, Nathan has a very good contribution here. One of the potential improvements is to really ensure that those companies like Uber have transport suitable.
I was just gonna. Yeah, sure. I was just gonna mention that to Storm. It actually, because I've been using Uber since I moved to Queensland, and it's good depending on the time of day. But the good thing is they have options. Uber XL, which is for larger vehicles, so you can take like wheelchairs. You can't take scooters as of yet, but it's like, you can take most of your equipment. And they have Uber Assist, which the drivers are actually there to assist people with special needs, whether they be elderly or the intellectually and physically disabled.
So the thing with Uber and 13 cabs is 13 cabs have the half price, which Ubers don't have anything like that as such. That's why I don't use Ubers.
It's good to mention that, Kathryn. I often forget that, those taxis have discounts that are made available, or coupons or things like that. I don't think Uber has any of those. So that's good.
And neither does Sheba.
Yeah.
I rang the company and I said, do you have price for people with disability? And they said no. I wish they could have that for people like us, like giving people like me getting to use Sheba that's only for females.
Yes, I can understand where that's coming from.
I had heard that before I left Melbourne that there was a rumour they were looking at linking the half-price taxi cards to companies like Uber and Sheba and Ola and all those, but it obviously never eventuated. At least for Victoria, so I hope it's still in the pipeline somewhere.
Yeah, and part of the problem with that is that there's a lot of people out there that I've noticed that don't even realise that you can use half-price taxi cards. And the other issue is for people with disabilities is that they don't always seem to use the actual service. So when it comes down to payment, what will happen is that they won't use the NDIS money that's been set aside for them. They'll use their actual bank primary account. So you have to make sure that when you're using it, that you know the difference between the two accounts and know what are the rules when using NDIS money and what can and can't you do.
Yeah.
You can't just go to a petrol station and then buy like Maltesers or snacks and then put it on your NDIS card. That's not how you do it. You can use it for money travel only.
Yeah, and that's generally why if you get your transport funds paid into a bank account, what you're best to do is go with a bank that's not your primary bank. So, for example, the bank that I use and the bank that I use for my transport is a completely different, bank to the one I use for my, Centrelink income. So at least okay, I've got a bank account for this, this, and this, and they're all with a different company.
That's kind of confusing for me. Anyway, Annika, do you have a question about the tools or things that help them with the journey? Are you able to shoot that question, please?
Yes, I was wondering, what have you found to be the most important tools or supports that make your transport the best or easiest experience possible? Is there anything that helps?
For me, it's more about what your lifestyle is. So if you're someone that likes to go to events or different sort of areas that you find fun and enjoyable, the companion card would be the perfect thing for that.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to Google companion card and it'll go to the Victorian government website, and that's how you can apply for it. You will need some like evidence to suggest why you need it, but other than that, if you do the basics properly, you should be able to get it. The other one that's very, very important to increase your independence would be the half price taxi card, like we've mentioned before. And also, I think there's, and your disability support pension card is very, very important because you can also get discounts from that one as well. So I'll give you an example. On your water bills, sometimes in Victoria, you can get concession rates by using your pension card, and you can get discounts off that. So that's a very, very important thing. If you don't know what your pension card does, just Google it, and then it'll come up with a list of what it can provide and what it can't provide. Because you need to be able to save money where and when you can. So it's very, very important.
Anyone else want to add to that, Nathan?
Yeah, sure. I think with any transport company, I think the one thing that I know for me that I've needed over the years is something that's absolutely reliable. Like, because I've found over the years, whether it's taxis, Uber, or train, if I need to get, to an appointment now, not in, 20 minutes, there's really nothing that can, there's nothing that's really designed for those with disabilities that's, set aside to take them to an appointment, with maybe no less than 5 or 10 minutes notice. And that's what you really need in a good, taxi driver. You don't just need someone that's friendly. You need someone that's reliable.
Do you think in the future we're going to get to a point where there's going to be a company just based for people with disabilities for sort of like transport issues?
That's a potential opportunity. My head is already spinning around. What if I have some sort of a private business, rather than an Uber-related business or a 1-3 cabs business, where all the clients are solely people that require, those kind of services, but are more attuned to the needs of the people that are riding them. Because like you said, Uber is not really intended for people with specific needs. Although Nathan said that there are bigger vehicles from Uber that you can hire, you're still not allowed to put your scooter in there.
Well, the thing is, Mimi, places like Uber don't have, accessible vans. And the thing is too, is that the closest thing you can get to disability specific transport really is volunteer transport. But the problem with that is, as I've mentioned probably in an earlier podcast, that every ride you want has to be scheduled a week in advance, and you can't deviate from that. So unlike Uber or a taxi where you can say, I need to stop and get milk, bread and eggs, you can't do that with volunteer transport. It's very scheduled, very set, and you can't deviate.
Yeah, maybe that's something we could research team to see whether there are transport companies private that may offer those types of services that the like Nathan, for example, and Storm have suggested. And then maybe we can add that to the next podcast, or just provide that as a resource for people to get to know more about it. So, guys, I think transport, like I said, it's either your best friend or your worst enemy. I'm happy that Kathryn's been walking a lot. You know, walking is good for her. She walks her dog. So if for COVID scenarios, lockdown scenarios, that's the safest for now. You're not in a company of somebody you don't know or don't even trust. And if you're just going locally around, you know, it's not too much effort on your part to walk, but to get to appointments and to get to other things that you needed to do that will take you further away from your local neighborhood, then that is really indeed a challenge. So, Billy, Annika, and Georgia, do you have any more questions for our team, or shall we wrap it up for this particular topic?
That's all from me.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all today.
Okay, fantastic. So, Kathryn, Nathan, and Storm, if you don't have anything else to add, we'll wrap it up for today. And we'll see you guys in the next podcast. Again, this is Kimi on behalf of Kathryn, Nathan, Storm, Georgia, Billy, and Annika. Say goodbye. See you again.
Bye, everyone.
Podcast.
Bye.
Don't forget to like
Enjoy
us
your
on our
day.
socials. Bye. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.